West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy with Chef Justice Putnam. Netrootsradio.com.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. À fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
The wife of former President Donald Trump is not at tonight's debate. We do know that Lara Trump is here. She obviously is now leading the Republican National Committee. But right now, this is a stark contrast to former President Donald Trump's last debate where he was surrounded by family.
I know that since we're not in normal times anymore, this story is not being covered elsewhere. We're going to cover here on the Midas Touch Network that Melania Trump did not accompany her husband, Donald Trump, to the debate in Atlanta, Georgia. So Donald Trump doesn't have the support of his former vice president, about 40 of his closest advisors who have all said that he's a threat to democracy, some BP, closest advisors, generals who worked for him, and his own wife, Melania, doesn't support him. On the other hand, Dr. Jill Biden was there to support President Biden, and leading up to the debate, President Biden posted the following: "The best part of the campaign trail is having you by my side, Jilly." And Dr. Jill Biden had posted, "The school year's over, the grades are in, and the campaign is kicking into high gear. My summer plans, heading out on the road to talk to voters about all the great work at Joe Biden is doing. I'll be posting a lot more going forward. Follow along and let's win this thing." And of course, one of the reasons why Melania did not want to show up is because Donald Trump, well, had sex with a porn star and multiple other women, and has been adjudicated by a jury to have engaged in sexual assault, and he was called out for that in the debate. Now look, I want to address the debate. I've done it in a lot of other videos, which I'll do in a little bit, but let me just show you this moment where Donald Trump in the debate says that he did not have sex with a porn star. Did you ever think that you'd have a convicted felon on the stage talking about not having sex with a porn star as he's heading into being sentenced for his crimes after being found liable for civil fraud and for being a sexual assaulter? Here's what he said at the debate. Play this clip.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one.
As Gavin Newsom said, anytime you have to argue in a debate that you didn't have sex with a porn star is usually not a good thing. Play this clip.
No, when you use the words, I didn't have sex with a porn star, you're not winning, you're losing at that case.
Yes.
And I'll tell you who was there. As we mentioned before, Dr. Jill Biden was there for President Biden. Here's what she had to say. Play this clip.
You heard Joe's heart tonight on the debate stage. He wakes up every morning thinking about how he can make the lives of Americans better. He's the president we need, the president you deserve. Sign up at joebiden.com to help finish the job.
And look, I know that there's a lot of people who are very concerned about that debate, and I was as well. But ultimately, where I netted out on this is, look, while I believe optics are important, And on the one hand, Donald Trump was a ranting and raving lunatic last night. But President Biden also did not show, he was not jacked up Joe, that's for sure. He did not show up there with any degree of energy. And, you know, he missed a lot of opportunities. He didn't really show up. He didn't meet the moment from an energy standpoint and with flair, and he struggled a lot to just kind of get out what he was saying. But I think it was obvious to people, and this is being reflected in a lot of the data that we're seeing, not the media talking heads, but this is why we said, let's pay attention to what the data is going to be saying after this thing versus, you know, what the corporate media narratives that want the flash and the pizzazz. But I think independent voters are looking at this and saying, yeah, on the one hand, you had Trump lying about everything and a lunatic, and President Biden looked like he had speaking problems, but he was telling the truth, and he was answering the questions and actually talking about policies. Here's a Michigan undecided voter reflecting that sentiment. Play this clip.
When it comes to a strong leader and what we're looking for in a leader, I'm looking for somebody that I trust to be able to uphold policies that will protect me and are more concerned for the general well-being of everybody in the United States, which I got more from Biden, considering he did a lot more talking about policies, what he's done and what he plans to do. Whereas on the other side from Trump, all I really heard was, I've done this and it was the best ever, but I never heard what it was.
More on that in a moment as well. But with Melania not being there, you know, we've seen time and time again, Melania refusing to show up at these various moments and purposefully humiliating Donald Trump. Like, take a look right here. Here's an event that took place a few months ago at Mar-a-Lago. It's actually in the last 2 months, where Donald Trump tried to get Melania to show up. So he gave her like a fake award for being great with kids. She isn't, and she still refused to show up. So Donald Trump had to accept the award on her behalf, and he acted like he won as she kind of just left him hanging. Here, play this clip.
On board. We want to take this opportunity. I know my First Lady couldn't get here, but we want to give Melania Trump the Child Advocacy Award because she did so much for children when she was First Lady. So, sir, this is for Melania. Please make your way to the...
But look, don't feel bad for Melania. I mean, at the end of the day, there she is with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She knows exactly what's going on, too. And the way she met Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club in the late 1990s, she claimed to be a European model. She claimed to speak all these languages, which even when we talked to her former best friend says that she doesn't speak all those languages. And it's her whole story is bogus and a stunt. But she met Donald Trump at the Kit Kat Club, where wealthy Manhattan men met Eastern European women, and that's how they met, and they created this narrative together. Like all things in Donald Trump's life, it's all fake. But here's Donald Trump with Stormy Daniels right there, who he claims he had no relations with at the debate, and he's been going around the country calling her a horse face and things like that. Here, play this clip.
Marjorie is here, Truth to Vote, and they found at least 5 million instances on tape, and the courts didn't want to even look at it. The District Attorney of New York, under the auspices and direction of the Department of Injustice in Washington, D.C., was investigating me for something that is not a crime, not a misdemeanor, not an affair. I never liked horseface. I never liked it. It's just it's a terrible thing. That wouldn't be the one. There is no one. We have a great First Lady.
And when you think about Melania, though, as I mentioned, not to feel bad for Melania, remember when Melania literally plagiarized the entire speech of Michelle Obama? I mean, all they do is cheat and steal this whole family. Here, play this clip.
Of the values that you work hard for what you want in life.
For what you want in life.
That your word
is your bond. That you do what you say you're going to do.
Keep your promise.
That you treat people
with
dignity and respect, because we want our children and all children in this nation to know that the only limit to the height of your achievements is the reach of your dreams and your willingness to work hard for them.
And And recently I had the opportunity to interview her former best friend and advisor, Stephanie Winston Wolkoff, about what Melania would say about Stormy. And here's what Stephanie had to tell us. This was Melania's former top senior advisor and former best friend. Here, play this clip. Around the time when you released the best-selling book, Melania and Me, there was that audio recording where Melania was livid that Stormy was going to be on the cover of Vogue or In Vogue, and she was calling her like a porn star hooker, and she was saying that to you, they're putting the porn star in the front, and this is so embarrassing. So she's always been humiliated by the Stormy ordeal. The fact that all of this testimony came out during the trial about what Donald was saying about her to Stormy, and perhaps even just the way that Stormy presented at trial, so professional, was a real kind of superstar and stood up there for herself. Do you think that like added to the torment of Melania just knowing her?
I don't think Melania understands torment, as crass as that sounds and as sad as that sounds. I'll never forget, and I shared the audio with you. Melania she called me and she goes, Anna Winter, editor-in-chief of Vogue magazine, put the porn hooker in Vogue. Now, I was like, what? She said she shot the porn hooker. And I didn't know what she was talking about. And you hear my reaction. And in that reaction, Melania's only concern was that Vogue was actually profiling Stephanie Clifford, Stormy Daniels, not anything about the fact that the conversation in everyone's households was that Donald was having an affair with Stormy Daniels at the time. So it sort of shows you that she's able to compartmentalize so completely and so utterly uncaringly. There is no... she knows who she married, and he knows who he married. She knows what she gets from this marriage, and that's more important than anything. So,
and then Melania, who's from Slovenia, and her birth certificate and all of this, her immigration documents and everything has all these red flags with the Einstein visa that she received and claiming she speaks all of these languages and all of these things. Like, let's remember who she is. And what she said. Remember what she said about Barack Obama back in 2015. Here, play this clip.
But what is this with the birth certificate obsession? Did he ask to see yours when you met him?
I needed to put mine anyway, because if you want to become an American citizen, you need to put the birth certificate.
Right.
I have a birth certificate from Slovenia. And do you want to see President Obama birth certificate or not?
I've seen it.
It's not the birth certificate.
Well, it's a certificate of live birth, right, which they give. But Melania, if he insists on what he's saying, then no one in Hawaii can ever run for president because they all get the same live birth certificate.
Well, but they need to have...
Bette Midler is finished, for example.
They need to have, and in one way, it will be very easy if President Obama just show it, and because it's not only Donald who wants to see it. It's American people who voted for him and who didn't vote for him. They want to see that.
But it's on display in Chicago. We've seen it on the internet. We've seen it. It's not the same as yours, but it's a certificate of live birth.
Well, we feel it's different than birth certificate.
All right. Well, I think you should give it up at this point.
Well, it's not. It's not him that it's bringing up. It's the media all the time. His points are really about bringing back the jobs, economy, healthcare, all the stuff. But they leech on that one issue, and they're going on and on and on.
Because they think that he's being obsessive about it, and then
he's not. He's more obsessed about. No, I would not say obsessed. He's very passionate about the country to doing well and to be what it was once before. Because can you imagine next generation, the children, our children, how they will do it's just going down, down, down.
I did see one comment that says, maybe Melania was the only person who made the right decision at that debate for literally not showing up right there. But I want to leave you with this too. This is from the Univision undecided voters. And what's interesting is nearly every single Latino voter who was part of the Univision Latino voters undecided panel, said they now have moved to Biden after watching that debate. And what they said is that even though Biden may have speaking problems, what they said, that Trump seemed like a ranting and raving lunatic. Watch this.
Fue el tema que más acaparó su atención en este debate.
El hecho de que el señor Trump solamente volvió a lo mismo, a decir lo mismo, en cuanto a que él es el peor presidente, que Afganistán, pero no contesta, no dice qué voy a hacer para remediar cosas. El señor Biden, a pesar de que sí, efectivamente está un poco lento al hablar, sabemos que tiene ese tartamudez, que es muy grande, pues, pero de cualquier forma el hombre sí explicó qué estaban haciendo y qué hicieron, qué están haciendo todavía, porque todavía sigue siendo presidente. Después de estar indeciso por un rato, yo creo que hoy me voy a ir por el presidente Biden.
I thought that's interesting. I think it's important that we kind of follow the data here about what's going on.
It is Friday, the 28th of June of 2024, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam. Gunner the English Bulldog is our snoozing sous chef. Precious the little Yorkie is sleeping in, so we will be seating you directly for our especially special daily special Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Yes, indeed. Yes, Precious, being the door girl, will probably have to promote her to, well, another position in which she can just sleep in like she's doing now. That's okay. She's on the mend. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's only meningitis and the steroid and the antibiotic, which I cannot pronounce because I don't have the pill container right in front of me. I am sorry. But she gets a half pill of that every morning along with the prednisone. Seems to be doing the trick. But she's sleeping in. So there you go. Alrighty. How are you on this post-debate morning? Oh my God. The bedwetters are just still wetting the bed. Get out of bed and get on the toilet if you're going to wet yourself. Jeez. All right. I didn't think Joe did so bad. I don't think he did so good. What I do know is that Donald Trump lied every single time he opened his mouth. Everything he said, you got to take the opposite, especially when he said Russia was a hoax. Yeah, well, tell it to Mueller. I know that Bill Barr came out and said, oh, there was no Russian collusion, but the report said there was. And the only thing that's stopping us from doing anything is because this guy's a sitting president. Otherwise, we'd have people here going to jail, and there were some people here that went to jail for it. 14 Russian spies were tried in absentia, but I suppose that doesn't count. Even had a Russian spy infiltrated the NRA, handed out NRA laundered Russian rubles to every single member of the GOP, and I'm talking all the way down to dog catcher. No wonder the DOJ can't do anything. Jeez. All right. Now, I'm glad that Rachel Maddow is doing the good work of reminding us about the German, the German Bund, right back before World War II. A concerted effort by the Nazis to use a little bit of, well, it was psyops, kind of new for the times, not really, but embedded themselves into our country to try to undermine it from within, and they came damn close, and no one really gets to learn about it in the schools, do they? Black cowboy? Nope. Don't get to learn about that. Nazis almost took over the United States? Nope. Don't get to talk about that. Because they're still here. Now, I always joked with my dad, because he had a little something to do with the OSA back in the day. He said all he did was stateside interrogations for security clearances. Sure. Anyway, I said, modeling our intelligence apparatus after the Nazis, with actual Nazis helping us set it up, what could go wrong? Yeah, what could go wrong? Well, you might get some actual diehard Americans who believe in the democratic process. And, due process, equality for all, yada, yada, yada. But along with that, you got a bunch of Nazis trying to undermine our system from within. Anyway. Yeah, we'll set up your intelligence apparatus, make it a lot easier for us to be able to turn you into Nazis. Now look how many people are so quick. Yeah, we'll see how quick they are when they're forced to, dig our graves. Disinter us from the trenches if they haven't burned our bodies, and rebury us properly. We'll see how they like that. Do we have to wait that long? I hope not. I really don't want to be a corpse reburied, if I'm lucky. If I'm going to cremate myself, I'd like to have it as my choice. What is wrong with that? That bodily autonomy, man. Jesus. I'll tell them I'm an angel baby and I have more rights than every person and thing in this world in existence. Yes, I do. Actually, that's going to be my new sovereign citizen movement. It's going to be called the angel baby movement. When a cop pulls you over, you just say you're an angel baby and he can't do shit. See how long that lasts. Why don't we? I wanna. Okay. So Joe had a bad debate. Everybody does. But no one wants to really talk about this guy with his lying mob voice. I mean, come on, Joe had a raspy voice. What about this guy talking like a mobster all the time? No one ever complains about that because they like it. Raspy truthfulness does not sell, okay? Just be clear. But a slurring mobster, oh boy. You can roll somebody up on a carpet with that. And they will. Everybody thinks that they're going to be able to ride the crest of the wave with the mobster until they're lined up against the rock pile, too. Just watch. In fact, let's not, because we've seen this movie before. They are playing it to script, and we know what to do. Okay? And we will vote them out in overwhelming numbers. They're going to whine, and they're going to complain, and they're going to bring out their goose-stepping brown shirts, and they're going to intimidate people, and they're going to try to do what they call lawfare. Because, come on, what has the Federalist Society and the Heritage Foundation been doing for decades? Parsing down every little minutia of the law so they can erode it from within. Sound familiar? Yeah. It's not an independent effort by independent actors. It's all part of a whole, okay? Come on. You think the German Bund just went to sleep? Yeah, they did. And now they're activated and have been for quite some time. Oh, boy. Yes, a little sore. I was doing some work out there, and as the older you get sore. I already know that because I've been getting sore for a couple of decades already, but still, in a way, it feels good until I can't move. Alrighty. Oh, Well, you know what? Since that was such a long clip, and I thought it was necessary because, Melania is standing by her man. It's just not Donald Trump. Her man is that 24-hour bodyguard who is a real 6'3", 245-pound guy. All right. Washerboard stomach. I call it washerboard stomach. Some people call it a six-pack. To me, whenever somebody says he's got six-pack abs, I think of a guy sitting on a Barca lounger drinking a six-pack or two. I don't want that kind of gut, even though I got one. You reach a certain age, and all of a sudden, yeah, it happens. A little top-heavy, maybe. Anyway, I just think it was important that we hear a story that's just total gossip. And we need it because look what they're doing to Joe, okay? Now, and they've already started it, Dr. Jill is being pilloried for being with Joe on the campaign trail. Oh, she's such a hussy. Is she? All right. At least she's tasteful about it, okay? We don't want anything done to the rose garden that's already been done. We want it repaired. And Dr. Jill is repairing the rose garden back to its previous splendor. Yeah. And we've had a couple of Christmases where we didn't have to think we're in a goddamn Stephen King novel with Kubrick directing it. Elevators of Blood. I don't want that in the White House. I know Melania likes it, but come on. All right, what else do we have in store for you here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy? On this fine, it's not just a liquid diet. Yeah, sure, we're featuring the French 77s, and I know everybody wants a 75, but we do the 77 here for a reason. And anyway, there's other items of nourishment that we can use as a repast, along with imbibing this fabulous balanced cocktail. The most balanced cocktail in the history of cocktails, by the way. Not just my opinion, it's a fact. So it's not just my opinion, but it's also a fact, which might be an opinion, but I don't know. We'll just leave it at that. What's on the rest of the menu? It's Friday indeed. The Arizona MAGA RNC delegation chair said she would lynch the Jewish county election official who oversaw the 2020 election for Maricopa County. And the guy's a Republican too. But he's not a good Republican. A Minnesota judge was reprimanded for stripping voting rights from people with felonies. Wow. I wonder how long he's going to be. The Supreme Court may just say it's okay for him to do that. Just watch. And Maryland Governor Wes Moore's administration is moving forward with plans for a new light rail project in Baltimore. Good for Wes Moore. After the break, we move to the chef's table where Slovakia will boost protections for politicians after an assassination attempt on the populist Premier Fico. And fire tore through the Danish taxation ministry, the latest of over a dozen major fires in Copenhagen since just April. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. Our webpage is still under construction, but we do have a player button there, and if you're not using it and you need a quick way to be able to listen to Netroots Radio, the button is there at our homepage, along with our calendar lineup of shows throughout the day, the week, etc. So while that's under construction, it is still a viable form of information. So go ahead at netrootsradio.com and netrootsradio.com. There you go. Alrighty. We're going to, tuck into this first offering here in the Bistro Cafe. It's Friday. We'll get into the swing of things and get into the regular format at this usual time, as we usually do. But now lately, the usual MO is to just tuck into the first offering. So let's do that. And it is out of the Associated Press by Yvonne Winget Sanchez and Ozzy Payborough. Earlier this month, Shelby Bush, chair of Arizona's delegation to the Republican convention, was in court trying to learn the identities of local election workers. Under oath, she said she was unaware of any threats that had been made against the people who helped run the last presidential election and the midterm election that followed. This week, though, video emerged that showed Bush saying that she would lynch the official who helps oversee elections in Maricopa County, Stephen Richer, a fellow Republican. Let's pretend that this gentleman over here was running for county recorder, Bush said, seeming to refer to someone off camera in the video, which was recorded at a public meeting in March. And he's a good Christian man that believes what we believe. We can work with that, right? That's unity. But, she said moments later, if Stephen Richer walked in this room, I would lynch him. I don't unify with people who don't believe the principles we believe in and the American cause that founded this country. And so, I want to make that clear when we talk about what it means to unify. Richer, who posted the video on social media this week, is Jewish. Bush said on yesterday, that the statement was a joke and was said in jest. She did not address additional questions. Staff at the Associated Press brings us this next offering here in the Bistro Cafe of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. A Minnesota oversight board yesterday, Thursday, reprimanded a judge who last year declared unconstitutional a new state law restoring voting rights for people convicted of felonies. The Minnesota Board on Judicial Standards publicly reprimanded Mille Lacs County District Judge Matthew Quinn for making an unprompted ruling on the law's constitutionality. A spokeswoman for the court said Quinn declined to comment on Thursday's order. The law, which took effect last year, says people with felony convictions regain the right to vote after they completed any prison term. Quinn ruled the law was unconstitutional in a pair of orders in which he sentenced two offenders to probation, but warned them they were not eligible to vote or to register to vote, even though the law says they were. It was an unusual step because nobody involved in those cases ever asked him to rule on the constitutionality of the law. The Minnesota Court of Appeals found Quinn had no authority to rule on the law and undid his efforts to strip voting rights away from several people. The Judicial Standards Board yesterday, Thursday, found that Quinn broke a number of ethical rules by not acting in accordance with the law. This is not the first time the board has rebuked Quinn. He was reprimanded 2 years ago for his public support of Trump and critical comments about President Joe Biden. Associated Press brings us this final offering here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Governor Wes Moore of Maryland is moving forward with plans for a new light rail project in Baltimore. Last year, Moore said his administration was reviving an east-west transit project that was nixed by his predecessor, Larry Hogan. However, Moore was not specific last year about how the project would take shape, whether as a light rail, rapid bus system, or a combination of mass transit options. We listened to communities, stakeholders, and leaders across the state. They were clear this is what they wanted, Moore wrote in a statement. We are proud to announce the Red Line will bring light rail to Baltimore. The Democratic governor has a news conference scheduled for today in Baltimore to talk more about the Red Line. Earlier this month, research at Johns Hopkins concluded that the Red Line would have a positive impact on connecting people to jobs. Hogan angered Baltimore officials in June of 2015 during his first year in office, when he announced he was not moving forward with what was then estimated to be a $2.64 billion plan. While Hogan moved ahead with the Purple Line light rail plan in Montgomery and Prince George's counties, he criticized the planning for the Red Line, calling it a wasteful boondoggle. Well, that's Larry Hogan for you. And that brings us to our break. And when we get back from that break, we will go through weather from around the world, and we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, Full of Grace. 15 minutes into writer-director Dina Uniunis Pusic's feature film debut, Tuesday, I was thinking, how did this movie get made? Well, turns out, not by us. Kind of. It's produced by BBC Films and BFI, the British Film Institute, but it also got money from Cinereach, a New York-based indie film grant organization, and, most importantly, A24, the company that's backed Lady Bird, Moonlight, Midsummer, Uncut Gems, Problemista, You Hurt My Feelings, and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Thank goodness for A24, and British tax dollars for helping give us this weird and impactful film. So, you have Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Zora, and London-based Nigerian actor Arinze Kene as a supernatural creature, and Irish actor Lola Pettigrew playing Tuesday, Zora's bedridden 15-year-old, very ill, constantly in pain daughter. But I don't want to give much more of a summary than that, because I went in knowing next to nothing and really enjoyed having this movie surprise me. You never learn what Tuesday's illness is, you never find out Zora's job. They're in Britain, but where? Don't stress it. Ouisghian Zodahs is telling our story with broad strokes because she's much more invested in constructing a quiet surreality than a detailed reality. It reminded me of Being John Malkovich, even though it's not a wry satiric comedy. Although a lot of critics are writing about the comedy in it, and I guess so. It's certainly not laugh out loud. It's more like the comedy of unexpected juxtaposition and ironic understatement. Speaking of juxtaposition, Tuesday is boldly fantastical and yet solidly grounded, a powerful combination. Even when I said, "What are they doing?" I always understood why and what was at stake. Tuesday feels so grand and yet so tiny. I'll have to wait before I see it again, but I'm so glad it was there for me to see in the first place. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our channel on YouTube.
Wow, big political news, folks. In an astonishing twist, some far right-wing Republican groups and politicians are demanding that their longtime corporate allies, such as Walmart, the Koch brothers, GE, and Wall Street banks, stick to their business and stop interfering in the people's political decisions. One group, the National Center for Public Policy Research, bluntly declares that it now prefers, quote, corporate behavior without partisan influences. It's even urging corporate shareholders to pass resolutions requiring top executives to halt their overbearing political intrusion. What an unbelievable breakthrough for progressive reform! Well, it would be, if true. But it's a fraud. NCPPR only wants corporate powers to stop politicking against right-wing issues. Specifically, the tricksters demand that corporations cease all efforts to advance diversity, equality, and inclusiveness in American society. Also, they oppose any corporate embrace of pride events or corporate acknowledgement of America's history of institutional racism. And they say corporations should stop all efforts to combat climate change, since right-wing orthodoxy says global warming is a hoax. Forget head-in-the-sand politics. NCPPers want to bury political reality itself in the sand. Now for the good news. They're buffoons. Even profiteering investors aren't buying their hokum. Their anti-woke resolutions are being rejected by 98% of shareholders' votes. Meanwhile, shareholder proposals to support progressive policies have been gaining ground, now winning a fourth to a third of the vote. This is Jim Hightower saying this is further proof that the fundamental political barrier to right-wing extremism is that the vast majority of Americans actually believe in economic fairness, social justice, and reality. Howdy-ho, folks, and thanks for tuning in to my Hightower radio commentaries. And guess what? There's even more Hightower waiting for you online. Subscribers to my Substack newsletter, Jim Hightower's Lowdown, get commentaries, articles, interviews with progressive sparklies, live events, historical nuggets, and more. Go to jimhightower.substack.com to sign up, and you'll get more. That's jimhightower.substack.com.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless, and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo. Do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that. Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Wouldn't it be great if life came with a remote control? You know, you could hit pause when you needed to, or hit rewind, like that time you knocked down that wasp's nest. Uh-oh. Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. With early diagnosis and a few healthy changes, you can stop prediabetes before it leads to type 2 diabetes. To learn your risk, take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Hi, I'm Tom Hartman, and since you're listening to netrootsradio.com, show your progressive side and go to the donate button on the bottom of the homepage. It's progressives like you who power Netroots Radio and keep the progressive message beaming everywhere 24 hours a day. Just go to our donate button at the bottom of netrootsradio.com. Thank you for keeping progressive radio at full power.
You're listening to the American Democracy Minute, keeping your government by-in for the people. A 2023 decision in an Arkansas redistricting case found individual voters did not have a private right of action to challenge the maps. The state of Louisiana tried the same tactic in its chaotic gerrymandering case, but was refused on June 24th. It appears to be the latest legal strategy to dismantle the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Defying precedent, the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals held in a 2023 Arkansas racial gerrymandering case that individual voters do not have a private right of action under the VRA Section 2. It said only the U.S. Justice Department could bring such cases, despite individuals having filed 90% of previous challenges. Calling it radical, scholars expected it to be quickly overturned, but this January, the full 8th Circuit refused to rehear the case. Seeing an opening, Louisiana asked the full 5th Circuit to rehear its gerrymandering case on the same grounds, with 13 other Republican attorneys general urging a no private right of action decision. In a close vote Monday, the 5th Circuit refused that rehearing. For now, the 8th Circuit decision still only affects Arkansas, Iowa, Minnesota, Missouri, Nebraska, North Dakota, and South Dakota. But it's clear that private right of action is the new battleground and will almost certainly reach the U.S. Supreme Court. We've linked to more on the private right of action at AmericanDemocracyMinute.org. I'm Brian Beal.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 1940. That was the day President Franklin Delano Roosevelt signed the Smith Act. Some initially dubbed it the Harry Bridges Law after the radical labor leader, long targeted by the FBI for deportation. Politicians claimed it was designed to prosecute fascists, Nazis, and communists. In fact, the Smith Act was first used to prosecute and convict Minneapolis Teamster leaders and supporters of the Socialist Workers' Party, recognized for their successful 1934 strike and radical leadership. Named after the Virginia Democratic Representative Howard W. Smith, it was originally titled the Alien Registration Act of 1940. In addition to mandating the registration and fingerprinting of resident aliens, it allowed for the deportation of those resident aliens who sought to overthrow the government by force. But the act also extended to those citizens who advocated the overthrow of the government by force or violence, or engaged in the printing, publishing, or distributing of materials that advocated sedition. And it made it illegal for citizens to organize or belong to any association that engaged in such activity. According to historian Donna Haverty Stack, author of Trotskyists on Trial, Free Speech and Political Persecution Since the Age of FDR, the Smith Act was a peacetime anti-sedition law that marked a dramatic shift in the legal definition of free speech protection in America. The Minneapolis case shows how far the administration went to prosecute political dissent, even to the point of targeting the labor liberal left. The Smith Act served as a prime tool for the McCarthyite Red Scare, and it was used to prosecute more than 100 communists and labor leaders. Finally, in a landmark 1957 Supreme Court case, Yates v. United States, convictions under the Smith Act were rendered unconstitutional.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. We always begin, whether from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River, in the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 55 degrees Fahrenheit, expecting highs in the mid to upper 80s. Sunny throughout the day with winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Clear skies overnight with lows in the mid to upper 50s. Winds out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. And intervals of clouds and sunshine tomorrow with highs in the mid 80s. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10. And similar temps on Sunday, which will be nice, which means that we may be able to do our celebration of life for Mom outside, which is how we like it because it is a picnic park-like setting here indeed. Grass pollen, though, is rated high in Rogue River proper. The air quality index for the region is in the good range at 17 parts per million. That's really good. And of course, that daytime UV index is very high at level 9, so everybody take care and slather on the SPF. Barometric pressure is falling at 29.97 inches. Visibility is up to 10 miles. And relative humidity is at 77%. Weather from around the world is brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world, and that is the Weather Underground. And it really is. London is recording 68 degrees and cloudy. Paris is 75 and sunny, though they do have a thunderstorm watch. Rome is 91 and sunny, and they also have a thunderstorm watch. Kabul is 77 and clear. Hong Kong is 77 and cloudy. Tokyo is 70 degrees and cloudy. Auckland, New Zealand is 47 and partly cloudy. San Francisco, California is 60 degrees and fair. Chicago, Illinois is 71 and cloudy. And New York is 72 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny. And that is weather from around the world, brought to you by a crowd of crowdsourced weather stations that a crowd crowdsources from around the world. At the World Desk of the Associated Press brings us this first amuse-bouche here at the Chef's Table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, because we are all Nighthawks in the Diner of Life. Slovakia's parliament approved a package of legislation yesterday, Thursday, meant to boost security for leading politicians and others following an assassination attempt on populist Prime Minister Robert Fico. The measures, which were approved by a coalition government on June 12th, are set to take effect July 15th after expected approval by President Peter Pellegrini, Fico's close ally. The package was criticized by the opposition and rights group Amnesty International, among others, as an attempt to limit people's right to gather. Under the legislation, authorities will have the right to ban protest rallies in front of politicians' homes and residential areas. Demonstrations also would not be allowed near the seats of government and president. The Interior Ministry would identify and prepare long-term residences for the Prime Minister, President, and Parliamentary Speaker, who will be obliged to use them. Protection also would be provided for the leaders of all political parties that are represented in Parliament, the Prosecutor General, and the Chief Judge at the Constitutional Court. Prime ministers and parliamentary speakers who served at least 2 terms would receive a regular payment after their terms expire. The benefit is currently provided only for former presidents. Fico, who took office last year after campaigning on a pro-Russian and anti-U.S. platform, has been recovering after being shot in the abdomen as he greeted supporters on May 15th in the town of Handlova. The assailant was arrested. Staff tethered to the world desk at the Associated Press brings us this final amuse-bouche here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. A fire broke out yesterday, Thursday, on the top floor of a building housing Denmark's taxation ministry in downtown Copenhagen, leading to the evacuation of the people inside the glass and steel construction on the harbor front and from adjacent houses. There was no word on casualties. Large flames and huge billows of black smoke rose from the 6-story building and could be seen across much of the Danish capital. Authorities say the blaze quickly came under control. It was a serious situation, and therefore the emergency services called many forces to the scene, said Tim Ole Simonsen, a spokesman for the Greater Copenhagen Fire Department. The fire brigade wrote on Twitter that it had prepared for greater efforts with water supply from the harbor, but it was not needed. It was the latest in a series of recent blazes in and around Copenhagen. In April, a blaze tore through the 400-year-old stock exchange downtown. The fire, which broke out on the roof during renovations, destroyed half the red brick building and its distinctive 184-foot spire in the shape of 4 intertwined dragon tails. The cause has not yet been established. Earlier this month, a fire broke out at an office building belonging to pharmaceutical company Novo Nordisk, the third fire in little over a month to hit the Danish drug maker. In May, 2 fires were reported at a company facility under construction about 55 miles west of Copenhagen and at an administration building in a Copenhagen suburb. The causes of those fires have not been made public. No one was injured in any of the incidents. Authorities have said that there was no connection between the fires. That's what they say. Jens Kastvig, a fire expert with the Danish Society of Engineers, told Danish broadcaster TV2 that although fire brigades in Denmark have been busy recently, it's accidental. I hope we all do. Well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and the week, but we do know that Netroots Radio broadcasts on, don't you know? And, of course, we will meet up here on Monday for River City Hash Monday. So do stay tuned to Netroots Radio all day, all night, and all weekend for all the breaking news as it breaks. And we will meet up here on Monday, right here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum. 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 Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver.